Hey everyone! I'm trying out another genre of journalism, advice columns. I just got a message from someone who could use advice. It goes like this. Dear Tony, I auditioned for a play at the community theater, but my mind went blank on stage. I didn't even get a small part, and I'm feeling really discouraged. How do I get my confidence back? Wow, that's a tough one. So I tried to come up with some advice, but honestly, it wasn't my best work. That's why today we're going to analyze the evolution and purpose of advice columns. Then we'll identify their key components and practice writing a strong advice column as you help me improve my response. Grab your guided notes and let's get started. In the world of journalism, advice columns are a place for regular people to seek advice. Readers can send in their questions anonymously to be printed along with the columnist's opinion about what they should do. So, how did the advice column genre even begin? Advice columns began in the late 17th century. Just like today, letters requesting advice were printed along with the columnist's responses. Anonymity allowed people to ask questions without fear of judgment in a public forum. Early advice columns addressed a range of questions, helping people navigate topics like social norms or scientific curiosities at a time when education was not widely accessible. You might find questions like, why does the sea ebb and flow? Or, is it acceptable to refuse a dance at the ball? Over time, advice columns became more personal and relatable. Why? Because people wanted advice from someone they felt understood their everyday lives and challenges, not just from expert authorities or gatekeepers of knowledge. In the digital age, the internet has made advice columns even more accessible than ever before. Speaking of the internet, we now have access to an overwhelming amount of information. Why do you think people still turn to advice columns for help, despite the vast amount of data available online? Pause the video to explain what you think. Let's examine the purpose of advice columns in modern times. Advice columns remain a trusted source of personal support and wisdom for a few different reasons. First, advice columns offer specific guidance. Columnists provide actionable steps to help readers solve their problems. In contrast, online research is much more impersonal. Second, advice columns foster a sense of community. Readers feel connected, knowing others share similar issues. Moreover, strong columnists aim for their advice to appeal to both the individual letter writer and a wider audience. Lastly, advice columns today provide timely and culturally relevant perspectives. They address current questions and help readers navigate the complexities of modern life. While traditional advice columns still focus on social etiquette and relationships, much like those centuries ago, others cover niche topics such as personal health, finance, or career goals. Nowadays, advice columns even come in innovative formats like podcasts or live streams. Now I understand the history and purpose of advice columns, but we still need to find out what goes into an advice column to best support readers. So, what are the essential components of a well-structured advice column? The first step is to restate the problem the letter writer has described. Why do you think it's important to clarify the issue at the beginning of an advice column? Clearly restating the issue helps the reader feel heard and ensures that the advice given is relevant to their situation. The columnist can clarify by connecting the dots and setting the stage for a meaningful response. Next, The columnist should show empathy and understanding toward the reader, signaling that they aren't alone in their struggle. How do you think an advice columnist can effectively show empathy in their response? We can show empathy in words by sharing a similar experience or expressing concern. This builds trust and makes the advice more impactful. Of course, now you'll need to include your advice. Advise readers for different possible outcomes, helping them see the practical benefits of following actionable steps. The key is to ensure it's both specific to the individual's situation and applicable to a broader audience. But how in the world do you do that? Well, in addition to specific suggestions for approaching the problem, the columnist can include general principles that others can apply in similar situations. Okay, I'm ready to show you my rough draft responding to the letter writer who bombed their audition. Take a look at it in your guided notes and go ahead, mark it up. Make notes of anything you see wrong with it based on what we now know a strong advice column is supposed to look like. As you can see, this isn't very helpful. I didn't really capture the issue, show much empathy, or give very purposeful advice. But you can revise it using the components we learned. I'll walk you through it. Start by writing the first section to clearly restate the letter writer's problem. Next, write a second section that shows empathy and understanding. Now, finish the advice column by presenting your advice and its general principles. Awesome job crafting a much better advice column. I'm eager to see what you think of my revised version. Here it is. Dear Discouraged, it sounds like you're feeling self-conscious after your audition didn't go as planned, and you're looking for ways to rebuild your confidence to get back out there. I can imagine how tough that must have been for you. Many people experience stage fright, and it's perfectly normal to feel this way after such an event. To regain your confidence, start by practicing your lines at home, where you feel comfortable. Gradually increase your practice sessions in front of family or friends to simulate the audience experience. There may even be a local acting class to get constructive feedback and improve your skills. Remember, every great actor has faced setbacks. It's part of the journey to success. Plus, it's important to give ourselves grace whenever we're learning something new. Best of luck, Tony. What do you think? Notice how this version clearly defines the problem and empathizes with the letter writer's feelings. Then it gives advice that's both specific and broadly related to persevering and learning, so others in the audience can apply its principles too. Now that you've learned all about the purpose and components of strong advice columns, I have one last question for you to show what you know. What advice would you give to someone writing their first advice column? Great work! That wraps up today's lesson. Continue thinking about journalists' words of wisdom as you finish your post-video activity and online practice. I'll see you in the next headline. Hey, hey.